Hey guys, welcome to this next episode of The King Lincoln Show. I've been telling you the story of my shitty, tragic, pathetic life, and I just got done telling you about how I went overseas to Europe and England for the first time, and I had basically a kind of nervous breakdown, and I became an insane person, and had an eating disorder and lots of problems with anxiety and paranoia and just general insanity and loss of control of myself. And we left off when I finally got back to Australia, where I'm from, and I succeeded in getting back without actually fucking dying. And yeah, that's where we got up to in the story. So I wish that I could say that I got safely home and then everything just like became totally good and I just quickly recovered and everything was peaceful and happy again. Um, well, not again because it was never really peaceful and happy, but I wish I could say everything became good. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. Um, I struggled with these problems and stuff. They were most intense when I was overseas, and they continued to be very intense over the next few years. And then in the following few years after that, they gradually diminished and diminished until a point where I eventually said, okay, I don't really feel like I'm suffering from these problems anymore. Um, I feel like they've pretty much resolved themselves. That didn't mean I was a perfect picture of mental health. It just meant I didn't really feel like I was like having crazy anxiety or anything anymore. But that was about 6 or 7 years after I'd first had that mental breakdown when I went overseas. So it was basically like 6 or 7 years of trying to do things, trying to live life and whatnot, but my main preoccupation that really took up all my time and energy was just trying to deal with a mental illness and get over it. And I kept trying to do other things, but they never really worked. Not much like came of them for the most part. And yeah, it was just a really hard time. So when I got back to Australia, my parents picked me up from the airport. And I don't fully remember everything from like the interactions and whatnot, but I just remember being in the car and I remember thinking I need to tell them straight away like what happened. I need to tell them straight away what went wrong um because it's going to be a really hard thing to bring up. So I need to tell them straight away or I might like not tell them. That was what I was thinking anyway, whether that makes any sense or not. So I have a distinct memory of being in the car driving at nighttime, back from the airport and telling them that I had anorexia. Um, I guess in my mind at that time, that was like the central thing that I thought was wrong with me. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of other stuff wrong with me, obviously, as well. And I can't exactly remember how they reacted. I think their reaction was pretty minimal at that time, but it's like, how do you react to something like that? But they didn't freak out or anything. And I think they already knew, like I hadn't been in that much contact with them or anyone from back home when I was overseas. Like I hadn't called that much or texted or wrote or anything that much. Like just here and there, like a few times. Um, And also significantly, I kind of just went AWOL from like the majority of my friends and stuff. Like, I don't know why exactly. I guess I was just dealing with too much and I've never been good at keeping in contact with people and yeah. But when I returned home and whatnot, there was a lot of conflicts and stuff about like me and what had happened to me and like the kind of stuff I was doing and what I was into these days and whatnot. And also, I was constantly being weird and retarded and inflicting my fucking mental illness and insanity on other people in unfortunate and regrettable ways. Um, so yeah. So basically, when I went away, I had started getting, a bit stressed and run down and stuff. And they had, my parents and family and what and so on had probably seen that to a degree, but for the most part, I still presented as like a healthy, functioning person and a kind of muscular, athletic young man and everything like that. But when I came back and they saw me again, I was like skeletally thin. I'd lost so much weight. My cheekbones were sticking out, veins in my head were sticking out, my ribs were sticking out. I was just like like a fucking skeleton. Um, it wasn't so bad. Like, people have anorexia and they end up in hospital and stuff. Thankfully, I never got like that. But yeah, I was like rake thin and they must have been really shocked to see me. Um, and I was wearing weird clothes. Like I'd wear like like weird like floppy purple pants and stuff and just weird like kind of costumey looking clothes and shit. And I probably didn't really look all that great, even aside from being skinny. Like I was probably all kind of drawn and like withdrawn and like shadowy looking, like dark rings. I always kind of have dark rings naturally, but probably had like really bad dark rings. Like I was probably all hunched over and withdrawn. Probably looked like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, or like some kind of weird cave goblin thing. Yeah, and I was all weirdly quiet and odd. And I'll be honest, it's really hard to remember everything exactly that happened in those times. Um, I just remember we had heaps of conflicts and arguments in like our house, like basically just me and my parents. And with everyone else, I just like everyone else that I used to know and stuff just thought I was fucking weird. And I ended up not really getting along with anyone anymore. Um, so I'll tell you kind of about some of the weird stuff I would do that like freaked out my parents and stuff. Uh I told you I was obsessed with this thing called Buto, which is like this weird fucking weird creepy like Japanese dance style thing. It's just like this fucking weird ass whacked out fucking type of dancing. You can look it up if you want to know the kind of things that they do. Um, but I was obsessed with that, and I was still obsessed with like a lot of this like theater training stuff and like all that type of shit. And like my brain, I can't emphasize enough how my brain just wasn't functioning very well at all. And I wasn't making good decisions and the things I was doing didn't even really feel like decisions because I just felt like totally out of control of myself. But for example, I would do this like Buto dance thing. I would have like just rehearsal sessions by myself, just in the middle of our lounge room. Like this grown man, like this young adult man who used to just, be fairly normal and go and work out at the gym and go to university and do his assignments and go to his part-time job. Now he's fucking rake skinny and he's into all this weird shit. He's saying all this weird shit. He's not making sense. He's like talking all weird. He's just, everything about him is like off. He's just giving this weird vibe now. And he's doing this like weird ass fucking dance theater shit. These weird like dance improvisation exercises and shit, like for an hour in the fucking lounge room where like everyone is like home and stuff. And it's like, he won't not do it. You can't get him to not do it. No matter how weird it looks or how awkward it is, it's like, to him, it's like so important that he does that. And other fucked up, retarded shit like that. I mean, you can imagine how much it would weird them out. It totally makes sense. And I told you how I was obsessed with this Fitzmaurice voice work thing, which I do actually think is like a legitimate voice work, like theater technique thing. It can be really great if you do it properly in the right context. But I had learned a version of it that was like way too much about supposedly having like crazy emotional releases. That just ends up with you like, crying and screaming on the floor, which can happen in legitimate Fitzmaurice voice work, but it's not going to happen every time. That's not what it's for. It's just like it can happen from time to time. And it's the kind of thing you should do in a controlled environment with like, a proper teacher and other people who are just doing that, and like it's like a controlled environment where everyone knows what's going on. Uh and I'm very hazy on the timing of some of this stuff. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but I'll tell you about it anyway. So I would just do this like Fitzmaurice voice work, or try to do it just in my room. And think about it, like you suddenly hear someone like screaming and crying in their room. Like that's just so fucking weird. Yeah, maybe you can do that in a studio with a teacher and other students who like know what's happening, and everyone knows like what workshop is booked for that time slot, and everyone knows it's going to be a bit odd. But you can't do that in your home with like your parents who don't know what's happening. And I remember like I really had an idea of like that stuff releases like traumas and stuff from the past, which it can do. But I think all I was doing at that point was not really the real thing. It was maybe just like I would scream and cry and stuff because I thought that's what was supposed to happen. Maybe I was releasing stuff from the past, maybe not. I don't really know. It was fucking weird. It was a weird time. But I remember, um, yeah, I was like lying down in the dark, doing this shit in the dark in my room. And in Fitzmaurice voice work, you often use like pressure points. Um, but usually it's someone else does pressure points on you. So you have different positions that you get into, kind of like yoga poses, and then you alter them to make like a tremor go through your body. And another thing you do is you like, yeah, a teacher or a trainer can like use like pressure points to kind of make your muscles release and stuff. I don't really think it's the same thing if you try to do pressure points on yourself, but I used to try to do that. And I remember, and this is so crazy, like I'm not saying this is a good thing I was doing. I'm describing a retarded story from when I was retarded. I remember like I was uh, I like was lying down doing this stupid shit, and as soon as I was about to touch my face, and as soon as I touched my face, I remember just starting to like scream and cry as if I was like releasing like this trauma or whatever. Was I really releasing trauma or not? I don't really know. I suspect not really. And then my dad burst in and he was like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, I think I said something like, "I'm dealing with things from the past." And he was like, he was like, "No, you're not. Like, nothing's happened to you. Just live a normal life, go to school, go to work, be a normal person," and all this shit. And it was getting like really angry. And yeah, he was really, really upset. And I later learned something he was scared of was he had heard of when I don't know how it happens exactly, maybe with hypnosis or something, where I don't know if it's kids or just people, but people supposedly remember false memories. So they do some kind of hypnosis or something, and they think they've remembered being like abused, like sexually or physically abused as a kid, or some traumatic event happening to them, but it wasn't real. It's not natural memory. It's something that's induced by this hypnosis or something like that. And I later learned that one of the things he was scared of was that I was gonna, do some weird technique or something, and then that was gonna happen to me, and that he was gonna be like, I was gonna think that I was gonna have a false memory about him abusing me or something, and then he would be like done for that or whatever. He'd be like, up for that. Um, yeah, but that's not what I was doing. That's not what I meant. Um, I just thought that this thing released like armoring and like tensions and stuff from your muscles and like released your general past traumas and stuff. Not as in like some specific thing that was done to you or like remembering some event or whatever. But yeah, he was really mad and but I like wouldn't stop doing this kind of stuff. I don't know if I did try to do Fitzmaurice voice work at home again, but in general, I wouldn't stop doing this kind of stuff. Um, Before, I wouldn't stop because I thought it was really important. Like, I thought it was the only way to like develop and some shit like that. The only way to like develop yourself, or like I just thought it was really important to do. But if I remember correctly, after I was like totally mentally ill, um, I think I kind of thought like this was the way I was going to get better, or this was like important for me to like, yeah, get better and like not be fucking mentally cooked in the head anymore. Which was also incorrect. But yeah, and yeah, he kept like he would keep shouting at me and like arguing with me and the stuff about this different stuff I was doing and stuff I was into, like saying it was demonic, mate, trying to get me to stop doing it, like calling me demon possessed and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure this happened at the same time, like on the same night that I just told you from the story I just told you. Um, yeah, he really had like a real go at me, was like shouting at me and all this shit. And it was like nighttime. And then I like went to bed and I was all like frazzled from being shouted at and yelled at and stuff. Uh, I mean, yeah, I was technically like an adult at this point, but that stuff still like really phased me. And for some weird reason, I like got out of my bed and I was just like sitting on the floor, like, cause I thought that would kind of calm me down somehow. And he burst back into my room when I was sitting on the floor and started going on again about like evil and demons and demonics and stuff. And he was like, "Why are you sitting on the floor? What demon are you praying to now, huh?" And I was just thinking, like, what the fuck? I'm not praying to a demon. Like, why would you think I was praying to a demon? Like, that's so obsessed with religion and all this, like, things being demonic and everything being spiritual and about demons and angels and stuff. That's how into all that stuff he was. It's like the first place his mind always went. But yeah, that's kind of like it's hard to think of all the exact things that happened, but that's like an illustration of the kind of conflicts that kept happening in our house. And yeah, I was clearly mentally not well just in general. I would always just like go off on tangents and like say shit that didn't make sense. Um I was like rake thin, but I would keep talking about how I was too fat and like how I had to do special diets and like all these whacked out diets I was trying and like complaining that I wasn't skinny enough, even though I was just like a fucking skeleton. And I was like always talking about how I was like unhappy with my body and stuff. Um, and I would, like before, I would keep trying to convince them that the things I was doing were okay. I would always be having these like impassioned like conversations with them, trying to explain to them and tell them like, "Oh no, this stuff, it's not evil, it's not the occult, it's not demonic, it's this and it's that," and like trying to get them on my side, but they like wouldn't budge about it. And nowadays, I don't really get why I was so determined to convince them. Why didn't I just accept that they didn't agree and just leave it? But supposedly I couldn't do that. And yeah, like it's hard to remember like the details of everything that happened, but I'm just trying to give you some examples and just trying to generally illustrate what it was like, and it really wasn't good. I remember this whole time I'm feeling really like anxious and paranoid and like having all these intrusive thoughts and shit and feeling like a lack of a sense of control of myself like this whole time that hadn't gone away. And my dad said something that I thought was really mean and it's always stayed with me. He looked me like right in the eye and he was like, "I used to say clever Lincoln. I don't say that anymore." And to me, it was basically like it was like him saying like I'm a piece of shit now. Like I was dealing with like serious mental illness, like serious mental struggles. And to me, what it was like he was saying was, "You remember all the positive shit I've ever said about you? I basically take all that back. I think you're fucking retarded now. And I basically think you suck." And even though like, I didn't really respect my dad's opinion and stuff like that, there's something within you that I guess still wants your parents' approval, like I've already been talking about. And that really affected me, even though it shouldn't have. And I just found that really hurtful. And I've actually always remembered that. I've never really forgotten that. And I just thought it was a really mean thing to say. Um, I shouldn't have taken it to heart so much, but it did really affect me. And he said it at a moment when I was really vulnerable. I really needed help, but no one was helping me. People were just judging me and yeah, not really listening to what I was saying and kind of just judging me and blaming me and like, yeah, were not really helping me with what I was going through. And I can't remember what point exactly this was at, but I remember being really, really mentally cooked. And I remember I was like sitting somewhere And I like got up and I just went up to like the front door, and we have kind of like we had in that house kind of like ornamental glass, like just like weird glass with weird patterns on it near our front door. And I just like put my eyes right up to it and I was just like staring at it. And it was like, it must have looked like someone who's like fully tripping out. Because I guess that's kind of what I was doing, but I wasn't tripping out on drugs or something. I was just mentally fucked. Like I was just, my brain was just like malfunctioning. So I was just there, like in the middle of the day, like, you know, when everyone is just being normal, I was just like with my eyes right up to the glass, just like staring into it. And my mom was like, Lincoln, like, what are you doing type thing. And I remember her sitting me down for this like serious formal talk. And she just started crying and she's like, Lincoln, like, you're deteriorating. You can't see it, but we can. You're like deteriorating mentally. And I think I can't really remember, to be honest, but I guess maybe I was denying it, or maybe I was in a bit of denial at that point about it. I can't really remember, but I just remember it was so sad that what was happening to me was like making my mom cry. And yeah, I still feel really bad about how, even though all the stuff I went through wasn't really my fault, and even though my parents, including my mom, kind of contributed to it a lot, arguably, I felt really sorry, especially for my mom, for like the pain and suffering and like sadness and stuff it caused her. Cause that's really not something I wanted to do or cause. Um, but that's the way it happened, and that there wasn't really much I could do about it. Um, there's another really significant thing I want to tell you about. And what that is my parents specifically, they fully blamed what had happened to me on me. They legitimately thought that it was my fault, like it was all my fault. They thought it was from all the stuff I was involved in and all the stuff I'd been doing, you know, voice work, theater training, mask work, Buto. I'd also explored some other things. When I was overseas, I'd done a bit of yoga. I'd taken a Reiki course, one or two other things, done some like Qigong or whatever, different things I was exploring. And by the way, those are more healing modality type things. I was doing those because of my mental struggles and trying to find something to relax me and improve my mental state. That's why I was doing those specific things. But I guess I had told them about some of that, and they'd seen what I'd become interested in like before I left and whatnot. And they totally blamed it on me. They thought it was my fault. They thought that either that stuff had like become a demonic influence on me, and like I was actually being fucked up by demons, like fucked up in the head by demons, or they thought that stuff was just like really bad for me and it had fucked me up mentally, or maybe a combination. That's what they thought. So I wasn't given any sympathy or help really in my time of need, especially initially. They blamed me and they were, yeah, very condemning of me and very judgmental of me. And they weren't sympathetic at all. And I remember I kept trying to impress upon them that, like, look, this is not a moral problem. Like, this is not me doing something wrong or making bad choices or deciding to do the weird stuff that I'm doing. Um, like, by which I mean just the general weird behaviors and tangents I would go on and trippy behavior. It wasn't a moral problem or a case of like bad decisions and stuff. it was, yeah, I was struggling mentally. I couldn't control myself, and it was something wrong with my brain. Like something weird was happening with my brain. But my parents basically just didn't believe me, not even my mom. And they didn't really give me much sympathy because they were blaming it on me. They were blaming it on, like, oh, you got into this, you got into that, you got into things that influence you like badly, and now this is the consequence, so it's your fault. That was kind of their thinking behind it. And I would say in general, from what I observed by other people's reactions, friends' reactions, and things like that, that this is in a more general sense, people don't understand about mental illness and mental struggles. And when you're struggling mentally and having a hard time regulating your own behavior or controlling your own behavior, they treat it 100% as if you're just making odd or bad decisions and it's your fault and you shouldn't be doing it. Because they don't understand that the brain is like a machine that can malfunction. They just think in terms of people, and like they think you're a person who's doing dumb things and making bad, dumb decisions. But that's not really what it's like. It's like the brain is this very complicated machine and things can go wrong with it. And it makes you say and think and do fucked up, retarded shit. And it's not always in your control. So I really have a lot of empathy for, people with like mental illness or going through general mental struggles now. And I realize like their behaviors and stuff aren't always within their control. And you can't really just put it down to decisions and stuff, because that's not always really what it is. But something happened a long, long time later. It was actually years later, I think, if I remember correctly, that finally made my parents like twig as to what had really happened. Because one of my sisters, my younger sister, also went on her first overseas trip, and it was her first time like being away from home for any significant length of time. So yeah, she went on a trip as well, and she had a big mental breakdown in a similar way to what I had. And her trip was way shorter than mine. I think it was only like uh, 10 days or 2 weeks or something. And my breakdown was very gradual, while hers was very sudden and very dramatic. And she actually had like a full psychotic break and ended up in hospital. But I won't tell you much more about that because I feel like maybe that's kind of her story to, if she wants that like put out there or not. So I won't tell you all the details of that. But that's basically what happened. And when that happened, my parents finally thought like, oh, okay. So maybe this stuff wasn't to do with the stuff Lincoln was getting into. Maybe it wasn't actually his fault. It really is shit to do with like how we brought our kids up. We did kind of traumatize them and fuck them up, and the same thing has happened to both of like two of them. And like, yeah, the youngest one, my sister, hasn't been into any weird theater training or Buto dancing or any weird fucked up shit like that. So why would she have a psychotic break? Why would she have a mental breakdown? So they realized it wasn't really my fault and it wasn't really because of that. And they realized, I think they started to realize that they were at least, at the very least, partially responsible for a lot of what had happened. And yeah, the stuff that was happening to me. But it took that parallel event happening years later for them to really recognize that at all. as far as I understand and as far as I remember. So I continued to do just like weird things and just like have struggles and stuff. I remember quite soon after I came back, I tried going to a party with some friends or something, and I had almost like a full-on panic attack. It was like, I don't know why really, just there were too many people, it was too loud, it was too busy. And I remember like just leaving the actual house, like it was like a house party, leaving the actual house part where there was heaps of people and just like going outside into the dark and like trying to calm down. And I thought about like going back in and I just couldn't like bear the thought of going back in. I was actually having like, yeah, the closest thing I've actually had to an actual full on panic attack, because that wasn't really my thing, panic attacks. My thing was something different. But yeah, and then I called my mom to come and pick me up. I didn't explain what had happened. I just said, hey, can you come and pick me up? And she picked me up. And yeah, I just like certain things I couldn't handle. And I remember this one time, it was much later than that, at a totally different time. I just went for a walk and I just walked too far. I like walked and walked and walked, and like not really knowing where I was going or what I was doing, just being in not a great mental space. And I'm pretty sure I walked so far that it was like it would have been a half an hour drive by car to get to where I was from my house. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm fucked. Like I can't walk all the way back. It's like so far. And again, yeah, I called my mom to pick me up, but she was mad about it. She's like, you don't seem in a good mental state. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know how to solve this shit. I'm sorry. So yeah. And there was another time when I can't remember what I was doing exactly, but I drove somewhere at night time. I just drove somewhere. I can't remember what I was doing there, but I parked my car and then I was walking around and I got really far away and I had no idea where my car was anymore and I was totally lost. And I was trying not to panic. This was like a long time after. I can't remember when exactly, but I was trying not to panic and I ended up having to call a taxi. I'm pretty sure this was before at least I had like a smartphone and before I knew about Uber. Maybe Uber hadn't come out or maybe I just didn't know about it yet. But yeah, I called a taxi and I got the taxi to come like pick me up from somewhere and drive around until I finally found my car. And like luckily I had enough money for the taxi or whatever, but the taxi driver was super concerned about me. I kind of told him what was going on with me and he was like, holy shit. He was like, Jesus, you gotta take care of yourself. Be careful. And I was like, yeah, I know, but it felt like that was my life by that point. Like my life was just fucked up stuff by that point. And when I came back to Australia, I tried seeing like friends and stuff and people I knew again, and it just didn't really go too well. It didn't really work. Some people had stopped being my friend, not not super close friends, but people I had known stopped being in contact with me and like, didn't really want to be my friend anymore just because I'd kind of gone AWOL for a whole year and like not really been around or contacted them or anyone. Um, which was kind of sad in and of itself. So it already cost me some friends. But then when I tried to see other friends, who I used to know and stuff, it just really didn't go well. And I really didn't know how to deal with it or what to do. Um, I remember, it was one of the first times that I had like seen old friends again after coming back. And I was trying so hard to be normal. And this one friend, like not a super close friend, but someone I used to go to school with and still talk to and stuff. We were in a group and he was just like asking me like, so what have you been up to and stuff? And I said something like, oh, I went crazy. And he was like, looked at me like really weirdly. And he was like, what? What do you mean? I don't get it. I don't understand. And I was like, oh, I've had anxiety. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I understand that. Like, and I really didn't know how to explain it, or I really didn't know where to take the conversation. And it was just like incredibly uncomfortable. And I had a whole bunch of um, interactions like that where I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to explain it. And it was just like really awkward and uncomfortable for everyone. And I just wanted to stop doing it. So I ended up like not seeing people anymore, not hanging out with a lot of people anymore, just because like largely because like I really didn't know how to navigate the whole thing. Um, but there was also this aspect of I was I would try to be normal. I would try to be my old self or whatever, but I just couldn't pull it off. Like they could see that I was not right in the head, like I was acting all weird. I was all like anxious and withdrawn, or I would like go off on tangents about like freaky, like retarded topics that no one wanted to talk about. I would just behave erratically. Um, I couldn't be my old self and I couldn't be normal. And I actually didn't want people to see me like that. And I kind of reasoned that rather than like seeing people again and like trying to be friends with people again, when I know it's not going to work, I'd rather just they remember me how I used to be and then just wonder what happened to me. Like, I wonder whatever happened to that guy, rather than see how I was now and be like, holy shit, that guy turned into a piece of shit. He fucking deteriorated. He's like a fucking mental case now. So, yeah, there are a few reasons why I kind of stopped trying to keep being friends with people and like get back in contact with people and like sustain any kind of old social circles and stuff. And yeah, and there were other people who I did try to keep being friends with, but they actually stopped wanting to be friends with me anymore altogether. Like they wouldn't return calls or like return texts, or they literally like did not want to be my friend anymore because of how I was, you know, after that, because of all the weird behaviors, weird things I would say, how I was and how I deteriorated. I remember this one time, like someone said they didn't even realize it was me. Like they didn't even realize it was the same person. They were like, wow, you're so skinny and like you've shaved your head. And like, I didn't even know that was you. Like you look so serious and like you're so like quiet and withdrawn. Like I didn't even know that was you. I didn't even know it was the same person. This was someone who wasn't a super close friend, but like an acquaintance. Like, yeah, people didn't even recognize. And yeah, I had some really cool friends who I happened to meet through the internet. Like before, when I was in high school, they were in high school, but I met them kind of through the internet and stuff like that. And they were much cooler, I thought, than my actual school friends because I went to this stupid little private school where everyone has to be religious, everyone has to be a Christian and stuff. And it was like a gay school. But I made this bunch of other cooler friends from a better school. through the internet, and I was really happy about that. And they had much better parties, and there were, I mean, there were some cool people from my school as well, but in general, these people were kind of cooler. But yeah, as time went on, they saw me acting weirdly, and I can't really remember exactly what I would do, but I would just be weird. Like, I think I just was really, really socially off. Um, just totally out of control of myself. And I think I used to just like spout nonsense about all kind of like weird subjects, like stuff that I was like into. Like, I don't really actually remember, but yeah, I was just really, really socially off. Like, you know, someone like kind of, I guess someone creepy who you don't really want around. Like, ugh, who invited that guy? And I remember one friend I had, it was a female friend, and I was really weird, like in high school and stuff. I think because I grew up with sisters, partly, and partly because no one really ever taught me about this stuff, but I would just be friends with girls. Like nowadays, I wouldn't just be friends with a girl. Like I would either try to fuck her or not be talking to her. But I had really good friends who were girls, and I just hang out, me and the girl, just being friends. It was really weird. Like I would never do that nowadays. And some people thought I was gay because of it. Maybe even the girls thought I was gay. But I had this really good female friend, and she was really beautiful as well. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I wouldn't do this whole friend thing these days, but yeah, she was one of the friends I met from this other school, and we were good friends and stuff. But yeah, over a few times of like seeing me after I'd mentally deteriorated, she just didn't want to see me anymore. And I remember texting her and being like, "Oh, we should go out to lunch," and then she just like wouldn't reply. And then I happened to see her at her work. I didn't know where she worked, I don't think, or I just happened to see her when I was like in the shopping center. She worked like in a clothing store. And I was like, "Oh, hey, like we should like hang out or whatever." And she was like, she looked really tense and she was like, "Oh, yeah, totally." But I could tell like she didn't want to. She didn't want to see me anymore. And it was just like really sad because like this mental illness shit, this nervous breakdown shit had ruined all my friendships. It had made me lose all my friends. Like it had taken all my friends away from me. And it wasn't just that they weren't my friends anymore or they didn't want to be my friends anymore. It's like they had changed from a good opinion of me, thinking I was like an awesome, cool guy, to we think you suck now. Like we think you're shit now. Like, and it's part of that whole empathy thing and that whole not understanding about mental illness stuff. It was like I was struggling mentally and I wasn't able to control my own behavior and stuff like that. But they took it all as just like, this guy is an idiot now. Like, this guy sucks now. Like, he's socially uncalibrated. He's weird. He talks about weird shit. He stares and, like, you know, like, does weird shit with his eyes. He can't hold a conversation. Like, he sucks now. We actually don't like this guy. And it wasn't like, oh, oh, you know, we're still your friend, but you know, we can see you're struggling and we want to help you or something. It's like, yeah, they thought I was shit. It's like kind of like the difference between understanding that something's going wrong with a brain and just seeing everything as a person and being like, this person is a shit person now. So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain that part of it, but it was very hurtful. Um, and it was a really long time, like seeing people again for the first time until anyone had a genuinely sympathetic reaction. some people would make it about them. They'd be like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me about this?" Or like they would just be dismissive, like, "Oh yeah," like not be really interested. Or they would blame me, like they would be judgmental and be like kind of implying that I had done something wrong to get like that. Or they just wouldn't really understand. They would just be like, "What? I didn't get it. What are you on about?" Um, or they would be like freaked out and creeped out and like not want to continue talking about it or whatever, just not want to be around me. One person I told I had anorexia even said, "I wish I had anorexia," because there was a girl who wanted to lose weight. I'm like, "Nah, you don't. You don't know what you're talking about." Um, but there was one friend, it was another female friend, it was a really, really pretty girl who, um, I was like fairly good friends with another person from this kind of cooler school that I told you about. I really liked her just as a person, not as like in a romantic sense. I just really liked her. I thought she was a really awesome person. She's really nice and friendly and really, really pretty too. Uh, we went out. I went out with her and a bunch of other friends, and it was the first time I'd seen her and probably some of them like since being back. Yeah, for the first time. And yeah, we were having like a night out type thing. And she like pulled me aside and she was like, "Hey, let's go for a drink at this other place, like just you and me." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, she took me to this like, it was like a strip with different bars and clubs and stuff. And she took me to, yeah, this one place, like just to have a drink, just us. And she actually started asking me like, "What's wrong and what's happened to you and are you okay?" and stuff like that. I can't remember the exact conversation, but she actually asked me what was going on with me and like, if there was something wrong and like what had happened. And she was the first person who was genuinely sympathetic and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about what you're going through." And I would tell her some of the fucked up shit I'd done, like, about eating raw meat and stuff. Like, I was just trying to confide in her, even though it was really weird. And she was like, "Oh, that's not that bad. Like, don't worry about it." Like, I told her some of the things that I was ashamed of, and she was like, "Don't worry, it's not that bad." Like, yeah, that meant so much to me. It was like the first time someone showed they really cared. Even though I'd seen my parents, I'd seen my family, I'd seen all these friends. This girl wasn't even like a super, super close friend, but that moment, that interaction was the first time it really seemed like someone genuinely cared and someone proactively went out of their way to be like, "Hey, what's going on? Are you all right?" Yeah. And I don't think I ever told her this, but I always wished we're not in contact anymore and she's like moved away and stuff like that. But I always wished I had a chance to tell her how much that meant to me because I've never forgotten that. Never. Yeah, it meant so much to me. And that girl was really nice to me. And I think maybe thinking about it just now, I think maybe she'd had some um, experience with people having mental struggles. I think she'd had a boyfriend who had depression or something like that. So she met up with me, and she hung out with me, and kind of tried to help me like a bunch of times. Um, but unsurprisingly, even she got kind of sick of me eventually. I remember I think we were going to another friend's birthday party or something like that. And she saw me like, as we were rolling up, as we were kind of like going there. And I was talking to her. I was trying to talk to her, but like I couldn't make eye contact. I was like talking to her, but like looking up at the sky and then like looking down at my feet, like just like really, really being like incredibly socially awkward and just like retarded, kind of like an autistic person. And nowadays, I actually suspect I do have mild autism. Maybe I don't, but I often suspect that. And I could see her like starting to look annoyed, and I think that was from memory. That's the last time I ever saw her, and I think that was the point at which she kind of gave up on me. Like, just thought I was weird, didn't think I was improving, and kind of didn't want to be my friend anymore, and didn't think she could help me, I guess. So even that really nice, compassionate girl got sick of my bullshit eventually. It's all just really sad. So yeah, um, I'm trying to remember what I actually did in that time. I know I tried doing a bunch of different jobs. I think I was just trying to do whatever job I could get, and really no one was helping me. The way I remember it, really no one was going out of their way to help me at all. And it really did make me realize how thin everything is, as in, like, how thin all our relationships are. Like, I mean, hopefully you have better relationships than I have or had, but supposedly your family and friends care about you. They want the best for you. They're there to help you. They're there for you and stuff. But I really don't remember getting much help, either just, you know, in passing or definitely not proactively from anyone. Um, Everyone just basically went along with their own lives, and it really destroyed my faith in humanity to a large extent. And it really made me realize, like, well, whether this is entirely true or not, it made me believe that once you're an adult, no one cares about you that much, even if they say they do. And if you have a really bad time, for the most part, everyone will just continue with their own lives and they won't put themselves out that much to try to help you. I'm sure that's not always true, but that's how it happened for me. And it really did, yeah, destroy my faith in people a lot. So yeah, that's a bit about what happened to me, after my crazy year overseas. Things didn't quickly improve. I came home, but things got all fucked up at home, and I continued having mental struggles and having all this anxiety, paranoia, eating disorder shit, intrusive thoughts, this dissociative state where I didn't feel in control of myself, all this shit. It didn't get better quickly, not by a long shot. And yeah, the situation at home and with my various like people I knew and stuff didn't help things exactly. So that's enough for this episode. I'll continue telling you about my shitty, pathetic adventures next time. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.